Welcome back to Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast, where life, sports, and medicine intersect. We're very glad that you continue to support this podcast. You can get the information on any platform where podcasts are played, as well as getting the video content on YouTube. But if you want to just get one place to find all the content, go to my website at drderrickthesportsdoctor.com, and you will find everything on that website. So without further ado, let's get into this episode. So welcome back to another episode of Time Out with the Sports Doctor, and we have a repeat guest here for you today. We have Mr. Edward Jones. He is the authority in player development. You know, he is definitely a pioneer. I don't think it's any short talk to say he is a pioneer in player development. He's an author. He's a fellow podcaster of Beyond the Field podcast. Just welcome to the show again. Glad to have your wealth of knowledge here. And we were just chopping it up on some current events before we got started here, but welcome to the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Doing current events. I'm kind of like, I got my camera here and it's down here, so I'm trying to focus. And if y'all see my eyes going everywhere, it's because it's a lot. But yeah, we were chopping it up on current events, man. It's just like, I don't know, man. You just don't poke bears, and apparently some people like poking bears. So yeah.
yeah. But, you know, last time you were on, it was May of 22. I looked it up. It was episode 55. I'm now like episode 125 plus, which is
let's go.
Kind of crazy to think about. And when I first met you from the Get Paid with Podcasting community, shout out to Coach Jonathan Jones.
Hey, Double J.
Yeah. So
not my cousin, but we got the same last name.
Right. Yeah. At first I was like, they family, but that's his little brother. But yeah, so it's amazing to see the progression and the just progress that you made over the last almost year and a half. Because I believe when I met you, you were just coming off the Houston job, right?
Baylor.
Baylor job. Okay. Yeah, you were coming off the Baylor job, and it was like, okay, been doing player development, you know, Kansas, Houston, Baylor, boom, boom, boom. Where's my next stop going to be? Not necessarily in a panic mode, but what's my next thing going to be? Now it's like, I doubt you're even looking at a job for a college. Now you are, you know, from employee to entrepreneur to like consultant, and now you really built this platform. So it's been amazing to watch the just progression of your story, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
No, I appreciate it. I think first of all, thank you so much. It means a lot. Once again, you want me to look at I'm so like, what's better for your podcast?
Hey, like whatever you want to do. It don't matter. It don't matter.
Yeah, I'll just try to like, but first of all, I appreciate you saying that. I think the big thing for me is like, I was at a point where I didn't know. And now I'm at a point where I had 3 universities hit me up in the last 2 months. And I'm like, I'm good because I like what I'm doing. I'm able, since I met you, you know, I went from starting a podcast, and in that time, so it's been almost a year. Yeah, a little over a year.
Yeah.
Started a podcast. This is, tonight I'll record my 90s episode. So I'm almost to 100. I've written another book, taught 2 courses on player development, and held a virtual player development conference, the first of its kind. And so I'm inspired by people like yourself, because y'all just go-getters. You know, you get in a group, they always say surround yourself around people getting things done. It wasn't a group of like, oh, you know, well, this person starts a podcast and us kind of like, oh, I did 5 episodes, somebody should be sponsored. It was us all getting it and like collectively. And like, I can't say this enough for you all. And I have an episode, one of my podcasts, for you all and even Jonathan, just y'all came at the right time. Like, I was just kind of doubting my skills because, you know, unfortunately, I got let go for pretty much no reason at all. Had nothing to do with my skill set or how I did the job. It was more preference and politics, the double P's in college athletics. And I just needed a group of people to believe in me, and y'all did. And so it's great to see where we all are, you know, what you've been able to do in your career. And I've learned from you and so many other in that group. But like you said, I'm in a point right now where like the podcast is starting to become a business. The reach has been incredible, you know, and I'm just at a point where, like you said, the consulting, I'm reaching out to schools and writing letters. I'm at a place where I just want to help people, and it feels good. You know, I know Jonathan always talks to us about this. This is the empowering place where I can choose what I want to do. Right. You know, there are major benefits to working in college football, as you can see.
Yeah.
But there are some things like right now I get to spend a lot of time with my family, and consulting, I could do it, you know. Oh, you all that need consulting and player development, I can do it in person and I can do it virtually. But yeah, consulting allows for a lot more freedom. And man, I'm excited. Like I'm about to start digital courses where people can do self-pace. So man, we're going to the next level, man. I love this topic. I got so much stuff. Every time I get asked a question, it's content. Every time a player unfortunately does something, it's content. Every time a coach does something, like say something crazy about another coach, and you got to be in that position to make sure how the players feel, because players come into your office like, man, I can't believe he said that. So so there's always something, man, that just kind of keeps me going. So I feel like I'm still in the role, but I service way more people than I serviced before. So
yeah. So first, you mentioned a backdrop. Just give us a quick, explanation of that backdrop and what that means to you.
Yeah. So this is really for me, like let me start with my story. As a kid, I was a sports kid. Like my family's real estate. My dad was a broker. My mom sold houses. And there were things I was good at, but I just loved sports. I was a junkie. I used to read the Houston Chronicle, read all the stats, all the transactions. My dad would bring me in. He would say, hey, Ed, what were Michael Jordan's stats in 1988? And I literally I memorized all the basketball cards I had. Matter of fact, I need to find those. I probably could make $1 million. But anyway, this is like the dream I had growing up. So right here, I've got all the credentials and just things for last 15 years. There's some more in the box. As you can see behind me, got University of Houston, my high school, got a whole bunch of books, pictures when I first started coaching right there. When I spoke the NFL, NCAA Coaches Academy, which is awesome. My Big 12 championship ring is up there, which is
that's from Baylor.
Cool. Yeah. Let me. I gotta grab it, man. It's incredible. Let me just get this box. Got my time at Kansas, my time at my alma mater, some more books and stuff. But it's just, and I've been blessed. Up top are some bowl footballs, and then my book right there. It's coming out soon on Amazon. Let's go. Yep. And then this beauty right here, always wanted a ring. My late father always told me if I want a ring, it'd be his. So you see this Big 12 championship ring right there.
That's a beauty. If you're not on YouTube, you're missing out.
You're missing out. Absolutely. So the backdrop to me is special. It reminds me of what I've done. But as it is, man, like a lot of times there's people that call it social proof. But it shows people, like, for me, I've said all this stuff, and I still think there is how do I say this? And I'm not mad at anybody. I understand it. I'm talking all this stuff about player development, but I'm not in a player development role, right?
Right.
And so, but I'm a big believer. You can't teach what you don't know. You just can't. Like, not for this long. Like, people can fake it, but you can't go this long. And so, for me, this is like social proof. Like, I've done it. It's behind me. There it is. Right. So I'm not just some guy that is doing things. Because unfortunately, this, doctor, like Dr. Derrick, that, with content, there's a lot of people that are just creating content, and it's like, oh, this sounds good. But I'm like, look, I got situations. Like, right. That's one thing I do in my course is I walk my students through like real life situations. They're like, wait, that happened? I'm like, yes. So anyway, backdrop means a lot to me. There's still some other stuff I'm unearthing. I have an entire like tub from when I coached. It's a lot of crazy stuff. So it'll probably be more detail there. You have your Bo Jackson jersey. I think I'm going to get mine. Well, I don't think I have my cousin's jersey. I'm going to put it back there. So, and then I'm going to paint this too. I want another color. But anyway, yeah. So the backdrop just represents what I wanted to happen. And I'm very thankful to God that I've had these opportunities. Like sometimes I just sit back and I'm just like, wow. Like, yeah. I've been blessed, so.
Yeah. And you mentioned social proof, but at the same time, your experiences, that you're one of the pioneers, like I said, of player development. But talk about how the difference of knowing, okay, I have this experience. I know that I have the credentials. I know that I'm qualified, but still the leap that you have to make, because that in your heart, I know what I'm doing, but right. You have to do these imperfect steps, right? Yeah. Starting a podcast, writing a book, doing a seminar or an in-person or a virtual course. Talk about how that's still a leap and how that's still, how imposter syndrome can still creep up, even though I got what it takes.
It's been an incredible journey. Like, even, when I started the podcast, Jonathan was like, bro, so many people, so many people respect you. Yeah. And this from podcasting, you can't see, it's not like LinkedIn where you get profile views and you can see the 40 people that looked at your podcast, or the 100 people that looked at this one, or the 600 that looked at this one, or the 1,000 that looked at that one. And so you show up not knowing who the crowd is, right? And even though I did the role, I didn't know if people wanted to listen to me, because like here I am making a podcast. I just got let go and I can't find a player development job. And as time went on, like even with the conference, I was like, man, can I really put this on? Like, but people kept talking to me about it. And I was like, you know what? I got to do it. And I even had a call with someone last week at a university, a Division I university. He's like, I used to do these monthly calls when I was at Kansas and Baylor. And I've dropped the monthly calls because I'm like, why would I, like, I'm not in the role. And he's like, and he told me straight up, he said, Ed, you're the only one that connects everybody. Everybody knows you, you can connect. And so even getting past that, like, how can I serve them? But I can serve them. I could bring everybody together. It gives me opportunity to show what I can do. And it also gives me opportunity to stay on the current events. So if someone's talking about NIL, I can come up with the plan that I would use. Or I could say, hey, we use this at Kansas or Houston, Baylor, wherever. It still is tough, man. It's tough, like, because as I get to episode 100, it's like, wow, like you just wonder, right? Like, it's like, man, will I ever get a shot in the role? Like, do people really, truly care? But every time I feel like that, I get that one message because it is a leap of faith. Like tonight, I'm about to record I got a fresh fade, so I got to record about 16 videos.
While the line is fresh,
you already know, man. Them fresh fades, man. If fresh fade, you got 3 days. I got it Wednesday. I got this day and tomorrow. My wife's birthday is tomorrow, so I just already took an energy drink. I'll probably be up to 3 or 4 a.m. But anyway, going back to your question, it's a leap. Like when I talk about stuff, are people going to listen? Like when I talk about my experience at Baylor, like I have to be real. Like it wasn't a great experience, Are people from Baylor going to be mad? It really doesn't matter, but I want to help people. The biggest thing for me is being authentic. And the more authentic you are, the more you step out, the more vulnerable you are, the more you step out and you don't know what the reaction is. You don't know if people are going to respond a certain way. And so every day, like I'm about to start doing workshops. Will people want to sign up for workshops? I send proposals to school. Do they want to bring me in? Will they pay me? This, like, and I got to the point where I'm like, look, the price is the price. And I'm finding out they will pay. Like they will, because it's that, but it takes a while to get there. It really does. And one thing, I had an executive coach. Thankfully, my last place I worked at got me an executive coach. And I told her, I said, I don't like talking about myself. I want to help people in that. And she told me, she's like, you have to provide people value, and you just tell them the value you provide. And so, but even today, one director always asks me questions, and I appreciate him asking me questions. And I was just like, you know what, let me reach out and let him know that I want to create a customized experience where I can answer all his questions. You don't have to ask a question once a month. Let's do this. I could come up there. Let's pay to make this service, and we can hop on once a week, whatever it may be. So, but it is like, once even saying that is a leap of faith. Like even right now, I'm tackling like, will he pay? You know what I'm saying? Right. Will his school pay? So it's every step towards, lack of a better word, greatness is a step of vulnerability, is a step where you just don't know. You literally like let's say like the Indiana Jones, right? You're one step, you take a step, you just hope something's there as you go. So it's all faith, man. So still learning.
Yeah, it's been the same thing for me as well. And, we've been able to see each other grow. But you mentioned like, you don't know if people are going to care. And at least once or twice a month, probably once a week, I'm sitting up here asking, how much longer am I going to do this? Does it still matter? Is it still relevant? Is it going to get me wherever the destination is going to be? Because I don't really know what the destination is, but I know that the more that I show up and the more that I get behind the microphone, the more people I'm connecting with. I'm connecting with people. We didn't know each other, right? Through the podcast. We might have never known each other. But every time I interview someone, they're saying, oh, man, you got to talk to this person. And it just continues to take you on a different path. And, like you mentioned, you'll get that one person to say, oh, that was a good episode. I'm like, wow, you listened to the podcast? I had no clue you even listened to the podcast. So, or somebody will reach out and ask you a question, or reach out and say, wow, just keep going, keep doing what you're doing. And that social proof and the validation helps to keep going, even though you don't really know where you're going, or you think you might know the path, but you really don't, because there's no way you could really have predicted 2 years ago that you would be sitting where you are. And it's the same thing for me.
Not at
all. I don't know
if
I ever really saw beyond 100 episodes. And we've seen people, they say 7 to 10 episodes, and it goes from every week to every month to are they still having a podcast? You see people just kind of fall along the wayside. And for those that just kind of keep chugging along, things open up. So for somebody out there just trying to figure out if you should keep going, consistency is key, I feel, to figuring out yourself and figuring out kind of the game, because it's a game that we're being taught and learning, and it's still evolving, just like player development, just like NIL. A lot of this stuff is in its infancy, and every week it changes. So you just got to stay tuned in.
I love what you said. Like, and maybe you've experienced this. There's like certain ones I record and I'm like, I didn't feel too strong about that one. Or I'll record one, I'm like, hey, that one was a banger. And the ones I don't feel too strong about, I'll get 2 or 3 messages on LinkedIn like, yo, that was an awesome episode. I was like, you like that? Like, and then, or people will go back. Like, one of the craziest things, like you mentioned this, and this is the biggest thing I learned from you and others, because we're in a group, and nothing against anybody in the group, but you do see that 7 episodes, you see the enthusiasm at the beginning, and then you just start seeing the more and more you got to show up, people, it's life, right? But like the more and more you show up, like for instance, I literally have a student in my course right now who was up late night, because I remember Jonathan was saying, and I watched some other videos too, Think Media, like putting up YouTube. They say YouTube is the greatest search engine, and people just sit up and search all day. And so this young lady was like, she worked in, like, she's certified in counseling, but she was like, how can I like impact athletes and it not be necessarily like a clinical, like not red tape, but you know what I'm saying? Like, not necessarily a certificate sense, right? Using the certificate she does have, education and the experience she does have, but in a looser way, right? And she was like, she typed in, somebody was like, oh, player development. And she goes on YouTube and she literally texts me. She said, I just saw your face. And she's like, I watch shorts and I watch, because you just don't know, man. You don't know. And now she's in the course. And now I'm connecting her with somebody I know, which that reminds me, I need to do my homework. I'm connecting her with someone I know next week in the space that works in the NFL. And she's like, I've been trying to meet her. I was like, that's my homegirl. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's the homie. So I'll connect you. And so like just stuff like that, man, you just never know. You never know, Dr. Derrick, like being an example, like how many young Black men are looking at, correct me if I'm wrong. I know you're a surgeon. Is it orthopedic?
Orthopedic surgeon. Yep.
Let's go. I knew it. Let's go. Come on. And like how many are looking, and then they look, find you, and then find out, wait, he does other stuff too. Like, and I think that's the big thing I want to show people. Like, for instance, like they'll see this, and then I'll be on Instagram and I'll be cooking, or I got a read by Ed, which I got to record tonight, or I got like this. And it's just like, there's so much, like just that you're so much more than just your role. And I really appreciate that with you, because I'm just like, I could imagine being an orthopedic surgeon and doing anything outside of that. But people need to see that. You never know. And so it's one of those things where consistency helps, because I could look at all these videos, right? And people could talk about thumbnails, they could talk about video length, they could talk about this equipment, they could talk about this. But the people who have success, they just show up. They show up. And that's all that matters. Like, there's no science to thumbnails. Like, this thumbnail is trash, but it's got 1 million views. Or this title is bad, but it's got this. And it's just showing up. And what's happening for me personally is the shorts have been great. Like, they've got me like 179 extra subscribers, but people are starting to ask about player development, because players do this stuff and they're like, man, who's developing players? So they type in player development and they see this. I can't call it a crest smile, but they see this. But it's just to what you said, like consistency. Anybody that's listening to this in whatever field you're in, and like consistency creates so much. Like, I remember people would say that you learn so much by teaching. When I was a teacher, when I was a coach, it's the same. I learned so much from podcasts. I learned so much from listening to other podcasts. I learned so much from being on this podcast. There's probably stuff we're going to talk about today that I'm going to be like, you know what, let me record an episode about that. So,
yeah. And, when I first joined, so I had, Jonathan was my second coach, but I remember when I first saw Get Paid with Podcasting, and I was like, do I want to be affiliated? Because it's not to me about a money thing. But I was thinking get paid money. But as I started to go along, get paid was so much more than money, right? Get paid is relationships, meeting you. Get paid is, you make this connection with people who introduce you to someone else. Or get paid is you learn something, pick up a wealth of knowledge from your guest. I feel like every time I interview somebody, I learn something. Or I read a book, or they tell me about a book, or, the value of a podcast, the value of connecting with people is so much more than a dollar amount. It's so much more than having a sponsor, so much more than, getting a paycheck in the mail for a speaking engagement or whatever. The wealth that you obtain from consistency, showing up, I feel like it translates not only to my job, to my family, to my life. It's more than just money. So what do you feel like getting paid from podcasting? What does that mean to you? If you're enjoying this episode, don't wait to the end to share it. Share it now. Share this with a friend or a colleague that you think might find value in this information. And then also make sure that you click and leave us a 5-star review and give us feedback, because we really value your feedback and your input. Now back to the episode.
I mean, it just opens doors, right? Like you mentioned it, like
access.
Everything that I got paid with from podcasting, in a sense, I haven't got paid for podcasting, but I have got paid from podcasting. That makes sense. So since I was podcasting, I decided, you know what, I'm going to do this series on Head Coach's Guide to Player Development. Well, I was like, well, if I'm going to do a series, let me write a book. And I was like, I want to talk about player development. Well, if I'm going to talk about player development, let me do a conference. Hey, I'm going to do this. Well, if I'm going to talk about this, let me make workshops. So it's almost getting paid in like you brought it up. Number one, social capital. So you meet people, like you got a lot of people that reach out. People, I mean, I get random, like, man, I connected with somebody from Australia, right? Like, hey, I saw your podcast, because I think sometimes we forget how big the world is, right? Like how much bigger it is. So you get social capital, you get, I would call it intellectual capital. Like you're learning, you're thinking about things. I'm thinking about, all right, what should my next series be? Oh, that'd be a good book, or that'd be a good deal. You're getting, communication capital because you're learning how to communicate. You're getting better at communicating, better at facilitating, right? Because man, my first episode, like I remember, like I used to, Jonathan makes me laugh. Like I go back and look at my first episode, it was trash. But it's because I'm literally like reading. I'm like, hey, thank you so much for joining the Player Development Pod. My name is Ed Jones II, and I am the founder of the Beyond the Field program. And then to be like, it's track, but I did it. Like I started. And so
you got to start.
You get better. Yeah. You get better at facilitation. I've got better at, and it's going to sound crazy, but like, I don't want to call it interior design, but like being thoughtful and like artsy, right? And like, what do I have behind me? What do I wear? Making thumbnails. Like I'm like a graphic designer now, it's just like, I want graphic designers. Let me not
say, don't dumb it down.
Yeah. Let me not say all that, but I have made graphics. And so you get paid in skill. There it is. You're getting paid. I'm getting paid in skills. And like, now have I made money from podcasts? Absolutely. Shout out to Jonathan Jones. I'd have made about some north of 15,000 just showing up. And it's going to continue because like now you have, to your point. Yeah. It's more than, I didn't do it like, all right, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna get paid. It was more like my heart's mission and all that. But now I will get paid because like people are like, oh, what do you know about this? And you send them a proposal and they go down your rabbit hole of like, hey, can you talk to our team about that? Or can you talk to my head coach about that? And so, but the skill payment is just, man, it's been great. The transferable skills I've learned from podcasting have helped me just in so much, man.
Yeah. So tell people, player development, just give them a quick blurb about what it is and how you're impacting player development from the outside looking in now.
Yeah, so player development, this is how I define it, everybody. Now, player development, it looks so different. So let's break down what I'm talking about. I am talking about the off-the-field development of players. So if you play baseball and you hear player development, you're thinking of pitching development, batting development. If you play basketball, you may have a player development coach who's helping you with shooting, defense, different things like that. In football, player development could be like a strength development in a weight room. I am talking about the development of the human being, outside of the sport. And so let's get that out the way, right? I define it as the enhancement of the student athlete or the athlete experience through holistic and intentional programming and initiatives. So for me, I have 3 pillars: personal wellness, community impact, and career development. So the thing we used to tell recruits is like, well, like I would talk to coaches, they're like, what do we say when we're in the mother's house? Number 1, personal wellness, we're going to take care of his son. Number 2, community impact, he's going to take care of the community. And number 3, career development, we're going to take care of him whenever his career is done. So he can have that. So you're taking care of this person in so many ways, them themselves, how they help people, and how they help those who will be under them, and the generational impact that they can make later. Generational impact is my life's purpose. And so in the role I spent, we talked about it. No, was it right here? There we go. It's opposite. 3 years at the University of Houston, 3 years at 2 years at University of Kansas, and then 1 year at Baylor. You all saw the ring. And I was able to just enhance and be a part of players' lives. I still get kind of like literally yesterday, I was at Sporting KC, which is a soccer team here in Kansas City. And I got to see one of my former players who's doing a great job there. And like, it's just stuff like that. You're helping athletes see that, you play football, but you're not a football player. And there's so much more to that. And so that's player development. If anybody's interested and wants to learn more, hit me up. I know we'll talk about that later, but I am just passionate about developing players. And then the reason why I'm passionate about it, because I fell into that. Like you talked about the identity stuff, and like my career ended a lot earlier than I wanted it to. It ended after high school. I had an opportunity to play smaller football, but I wanted to go to University of Houston because going back to what I told you, I love sports, and they were the only school that had a sports management program that literally listed out what I was studying. And so my football career ended early. And it's interesting when you look at these scholarship players in football, the two things that stand out in football very easily when you look at a football field is size and speed. Right. And so if you're a big kid or you're very fast in football, you are identified early, very early on. This could be little league, middle school, and even some cases high school, as you are going to make it. That could be a scholarship, that could be the NFL. So your whole identity is like, I have to make it. And you miss out on all this. You miss out, like people are telling you to work on football when you like playing with Yu-Gi-Oh cards or Pokemon cards, and people are telling you, hey, go out there and work out when you like gaming, or when you like, you're playing with what's the doctor thing where you used to buzz. Maybe you want to be orthopedic surgeon.
Operation.
Yeah, operation. You're sitting there playing operation, and you got people tell, hey, have you worked on, have you ran, have you worked out, have you done your push-ups? Which is, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, what have you passed? And so whenever I talk to players, I would say, what professional would you want to shadow for a day? And so they would say, well, my degree is in, I said, I didn't ask you that. I said, what profession would you want to shadow for a day? And so do you start getting, well, entrepreneur. One guy was like, I want to shadow a body shop. I want to have my own body shop. So it's all right, let's figure it out. So it's one of those things, like that's what I do. That's player development to me, is enhancing this experience. Now, I want you to be the best player on the field. Like, you're here for a reason now. Let's not forget that you are good at football and you do have a scholarship. You're here to be a student and an athlete. And you need to take care of those two things. But as you're taking care of those things, we want to take care of you and help you see that you're so much greater than the role that you're in right now.
Yeah, more than an athlete. Athletes are powerful. They have platforms that many of them don't even know the power of. The platform, I've seen in the state of Mississippi a flag change because of the actions of an athlete.
Absolutely.
It's been years and years and years, and probably would have continued to be years, but an athlete stepped up and money started to, hey, we're pulling out, and wow, within a week, look what happened. So athletes are powerful. I want you to hear that. You're more than an athlete. You are a person. You are a human being. And no matter after the sport, you still are the person that you were before the sport. And sometimes you just got to figure out who you are off the field or off the court. And that's what Brother Ed is here to help you with. So
look out now.
Yeah. So he can clean up Coach's mess too. So we'll see after Saturday. Your phone might be ringing. I'm sorry for what I said.
Yeah, you have to get your team back, Coach. I got you. I know how to get them back. It's gonna cost you a pretty penny, though.
All right, man. Well, on Time Out with the Sports Doctor, this is your final timeout. So, I told you this was unscripted because I knew I just wanted to catch up with you, and I knew it would be great conversation. But for someone who's listening now, they say, "Wow, Ed Jones, he's one of the pioneers." So of course he had a head start in the field, and that's why he was able to write programs and books. But there's no need for me right now. So speak to the fact of, no matter how many podcasts or how many books, there's always room for more new knowledge, new voices. So why should people still, start a podcast, write a book, write a program, things of that nature?
It's because there is someone else who has an interest in what you do. And so what I mean by this is player development is very niche down. So I actually joined a group, and it's kind of preparing us for creating online courses. And I said, hey, my name is Ed Jones. I do player development. This is what player development is. Somebody literally in the comments that is a niche. And the big thing, I get the emails that say, hey, let's work on your SEO. Let's get to 100,000 subscribers. I know there's not 100,000 people who care about player development. Maybe there are, but that's not my target. My target is to help whoever is interested in this and passionate about this. They need resources. Why? Because in 2016, when I was hired at the University of Houston, I had nowhere to go. I'm sitting in the office and I had to figure it out. And for 2.5 years, I figured it out. But I always think about, man, if I would have had a head start, if I would have got, man, like if I would have had some resources to work with, I felt I built good relationships. So I'm always relational, but like how much impact could I have had if I would have had some resources to start? So whoever's listening, like that is my calling to you. Like, I'm a coach now. You'll give me a halftime speech. But like my calling, to you is whatever you're interested in. There's somebody that needs a start. It may be 5 years from now. It may be a kid on the playground right now that will have the same exact passion you have or somewhere near it. And they'll see a book and their parents will think they're crazy. Their teachers will think they're crazy. And they'll say, I want to do this. And you got a podcast with 100-something episodes, or you have a book, or you have a blog, or you have a newsletter that talks about this. You never know. What I am finding out is this. There are a lot of students in sports management programs that want to get in player development because player development is growing. And I'm biased, but I think it's the number one growing position outside of NIL because NIL is going to cap at some point as far as positions because everybody's going to figure it out. Player development, there's something new every day because you're dealing with people and there's a lot of different people, a lot of different personalities. And so what I'm finding out is a lot of students are going back, like you have more stuff and they're literally saying, they did not teach me this at my university. They did not teach me this. We never talked about player development. So whoever's listening to this, I don't care if it's underwater basket weaving. I don't care if you want to talk about how to paint a wall. I don't care if you want to talk about putting decals on a helmet because I am absolutely trash at putting decals on helmets, whatever it is, like whatever your passion is, somebody wants to hear it. People sign, there's conventions. If you saw a list of, I've seen conventions for it's the smallest things like marketing conventions about signs, the vertical signs, like they literally have a convention about that. So I just want to say, whatever it is, like, don't think that nobody wants to hear it. You will be shocked at who wants to hear it. And it may not, I'll say this, do not go in thinking, hey, I'm gonna get 100,000 subscribers. You probably won't. Right now, I'm at 272 subscribers on the YouTube channel, and that kind of shocked me. I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought we'd probably get to 100, 150 people that care. But once again, it's not about that. It is, I am getting the message out. And when I get a message that someone tells me that what I've done is help them, when I get a message from a young man who says, I got a position to be the student athlete development coordinator at this school. And a lot of that has to do with what you learn. When I get a message from somebody that was at the conference who literally was looking for a player development position and now is creating an entire player development department for the entire university that he's at. And he says, that's because you did that. That's what you need. I love this quote. If anybody watched Coach Carter, our greatest fear is that we're strong beyond our measure. And at the end of the quote, it says, who your downplaying, your small playing of who you are doesn't benefit the world. So whatever it is, write that book. It doesn't matter. Write it. Just like I told, like me and Dr. Derrick talked about it. My first podcast was absolute. The first 7 are trash, absolutely trash. But it helped me get to this point right now. And so, and people still like, hey, I love the first episodes. Like those are my most, if the crazy thing is those are trash, those are my most watched or most listened to podcast episodes, which is wild. But so go out there, do it. I'm telling you, somebody do it. This with the expanse of the internet, people are benefiting on niche topics. And so I want to tell people, I kid you not, like I look at this mic, right? And you may love these chords, hey, I want it this chord to help your mic. Talk about it. Somebody's listening. So
nah, you're right. It doesn't matter how small or how minute you think it is. Somebody, like you mentioned, they're going to Google, they're going to YouTube. I do it all the time. How do you put on this ankle brace? How do you do whatever? So you never know. Some of those how-to videos have hundreds and thousands of views just because that's what people are searching for.
I'm looking at that Bo Jackson jersey back there, and I'm thinking man, it'd be sweet to learn how to put a jersey in a frame. Like, how do people do that?
Right.
And you type in YouTube, and somebody is literally teaching people how to put jerseys in a frame. But guess what? Guess what's always going to be worn to the end of time? Jerseys. And what are people going to want to do? Hang jerseys up. Yeah. And they're not talking about how the jersey was made or Nike versus Under Armour. They are literally talking about framing jerseys. And I'm gonna look it up after this. And that's my homework to you all listening. Go look up a jersey framing video and look at how many hundreds of thousands of views it gets. And we're talking about super niche. So yeah.
Right. But hey, man, tell people how they can follow you on social media, how they can connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my bank account number, if you want to make it down. All right.
So buy coffee for the podcast.
Yeah. The Cash App is so all my social medias are BTF_program. So beyond the field, BTF_program. Very active on LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads. That's something new. TikTok. Yeah. It's all BTF_program. Yeah. X is so weird. So yeah, that's where you can find me, and let me know what you want to hear. If there's anything anybody's like have a question about, I do a question of the week. I do a tip of the week. So you get from me every week, you get 4 resources. You get a blog, you get a podcast episode, you get a question of the week, you get a tip of the week. So if you have any tips you want to know about or questions, please help me out, because the well can run dry at times. So yeah, that's where you can find me, BTF_program.
And that's just the free stuff. You can always pay for a little knowledge.
Come on, man. I will, man. This is what I've learned. If the free stuff is that good, the pay stuff has to be better.
Got to be better.
Come on now. Y'all go to the mall. Y'all know what's up. If that sample is that good, then I know that 2-meat, 2-side combo is about to bang. You feel me?
Well, man, I appreciate catching up with you, Ed, and great success in your future. And I'm looking forward to the ride. Can continue to grow together. So
I appreciate you, man. Yeah, you crushing, man. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you for continuing to support this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then please leave a 5-star review. And if you haven't done so, subscribe so you continue to get the updated episodes. Until later, peace. Hey, time out with the sports doctor. Keep our head right in the game. We ain't never stopping. You are now tuned in. Trust you don't want to miss. This is where life, sports, and medicine